Right, over to ADHD New Zealand. Obviously, love speaking to Darrin, and we speak every month, swapping notes on how to make our charities better. Those meetings are going to include ADHD Australia and others ongoing. It's part of our ambition for the conference to build that cooperative. Darrin, welcome. It's been a year since we did this last time. It's so the big time's flown. The big question. So, how's your year been?
Hi, Henry, and thanks for having us back. How has the year been for ADHD New Zealand? Well, we've had some big accomplishments, and because of those, we have a resource issue, as I guess many not-for-profits do at the moment. The highlight for us is we worked with the APTA, the Australian ADHD Professionals Association, and we brought 2 world-leading experts over to New Zealand in March, and they ran a lecture series. More importantly, they have the latest guidelines for how to treat, assess, and assist those with ADHD. It's an amazing piece of work which took them years. So we brought them over, and the outcome of it, after they talked to government, all of the ministries that were relevant, as well as all the medical colleges, is there's an agreement to start the process to adapting the Australian guidelines, which for New Zealand is a huge step. Huge step. And it might take us a couple of years, but that means in Australasia we've aligned practices.
Yeah, and we've talked about this before. So the Australian ones are based on the British ones, but significantly more detailed and built up. You've done work to then evolve them again. And I think at some point our hope is to take them back again to help evolve the UK ones, because the NICE guidelines are now a little old, but in, say, Scotland, there are no guidelines. So they had some guidelines, and then they decided they were too old, so they banned those. So now they have none. So the importance of these things cannot be underestimated.
Yeah, agree. I mean, in New Zealand, on the Ministry of Health, all they have on their website is a link to the World Health Organization's definition of ADHD, which is just not helpful, more on the hopeless category. So this is a big step. This is a really big step. And the fact that we don't have to spend 4 or 5 years creating them and can just build on the Australian guidelines is enormous.
That's great. That's great work. Yeah. And what else has been going on?
There's probably 2 other key things we've looked at for this year. The first, a bit of a governance review. And what we've done is realize we want to make sure that we represent our community. So we've set up a lived experience group, and they will have 2 seats on our board once their review has finished. And the amazing thing for us was just one ad about what we want to do for 10 positions. I think we got nearly 36 applications, and they're amazing. So this is going to be our connection. It gives us a sounding board. We're able to better represent our community, which is spread throughout New Zealand. The second step, and it hasn't gone as fast as we've liked, is we've set up a combined research body with Auckland University. One aspect of ADHD in New Zealand is that most of the research is done overseas. So we don't have a Aotearoa New Zealand view of ADHD, and it's really important that we start to get that. So with the Auckland University School of Medicine population studies, we're going to be able to create that. And actually the other thing I'll add is, one thing is we get asked to help with research all the time, and which is great, masters and PhD thesis, and sometimes they cover the same topic. So the idea of this research body is also to connect the dots and get researchers talking to each other as well. So that's sort of the key highlights for the year. I have to admit, a low light is getting the guidelines through, working through the bureaucracy. That's our health sector has cost us a lot of money. This is not funded, so we have to drive that work ourselves. And so we're well and truly into reserves and making cutbacks, but sometimes when it's important, it's time to focus.
What was how have you had to, so people understand? Because people,
Uh,
it, lobbying for change and making a difference, like it's hard. It
yeah.
takes a lot of effort. So like you're happy to sort of share how the sort of where
Yeah.
you've had to spend resource and to
There's a saying in New Zealand that I learned: if you want to get social change, you need 500 cups of coffee. So when we started on this journey to get the change we needed 3 years ago, we started recording the cups of coffee. And about coffee number 282, that's when we actually had the Minister of Health saying, okay, I see what you're doing. We need to talk about this. Now we're up to about coffee number 410. And in some ways, we've made a lot of progress, and in some ways, we haven't. We just need to still keep having those conversations and meetings. We need to keep making sure that it's at top of mind and progressing it. And unfortunately, our Ministry of Health, which is known as Te Whara Ora, won't fund the work, though they agreed to the guidelines. They agreed to the work being done as long as they don't have to pay for it, which is disappointing. So we've had to step up and fund that ourselves. We've had a CEO slash program manager drive it, and this is where it's become enormously expensive. The good news is we are making progress, so it hasn't stopped. The not so good news is some of the things we used to do, we've had to make cutbacks or cut back on hours on most of our team, which sounds like we've got a huge team. We really only have um, 2 half-time FTE and a contractor, so we've had to cut hours and we have to cut back expenditure everywhere. And I keep saying we've got 3 months of money left before we're no more, or I think we're up to about 4 months now. So we're making progress.
nice. Yeah, the time, I love that analogy of 500 coffees. I actually particularly love the fact you've actually recorded them. And obviously, what you're talking about is the coffee as a meeting. It's sitting down with someone, having a coffee, and talking with them, and that
Yeah.
changed, like, taking a lot of time to make happen, and the effort is enormous. And you've done extraordinary strides in New Zealand.
Yeah, thanks. I think the key to it is we've done regular surveys. We're about to start our 4th and 5th surveys, and to actually able to go to government and these bodies and say things like the current waiting time to see a specialist is 9 months. Depression is an issue for 50 to 60% of our members. And most people, when they're trying to see a specialist, a third, just look to give up. And in those situations, when you've got those facts, even if it's just a survey, not a scientific-based research program, is enough to hopefully, get us in the door.
That's that's a question we've not looked at, actually. The look to give up. We have a huge issue at the moment. There's a pilot happening in the York area, which is significantly stopping people going and getting an assessment. So they have to do a thing called the Do It Profiler. And initially, when launched, you had to meet one of three criteria, one of which was you risk of taking your own life, risk of harm to others, or you're in family court, a risk of having your family broken up. There's been some erosion, but it's still like 90% of people get removed. And that point around people giving up, they're in trouble, they're struggling, and you're asking them to jump this hurdle. I don't think that's a question we've pushed on, actually. We should. I think it's really, and that's actually a really good example. So something else has been happening over this period. So one of the aims of the global conference is to bring together the charities, ADHD charities across the world, for us to essentially, in the nicest possible way, steal each other's best ideas, and talk through.
Definitely.
So, Darrin and I have been meeting every month and talking through. I'm just about to now going to steal that idea. I think that's something we should be doing. We've not been doing annual surveys. I think we should. I think it's a really great idea. But and then on the flip side, I think you've been taken our. So we've got workplace. We've got a pack for someone with ADHD to give to their boss, and that was something you learnt about, and basically we're like, I would like that. So we sent you the original documents in editable form, which I believe you're now using it, which is a wonderful thing.
And I think this is the most important thing. Technology enables the power of ADHD to be turned on, enables us to connect, because it's really interesting across the world. These different ADHD community bodies are at different stages, but they all have the same problem. So if we all power each other on, watch out, is what I can say to government. Yeah.
Absolutely. And some of the challenges also in the populations, like the challenge of late diagnosis, challenge of women and girls, diagnosis, challenge of inattentive not being picked up, challenge of what's a good workplace adjustment, what can be done, should be done. All of those things are things we all share.
Totally. And it's just small ideas. I mean, the workplace idea, or the work that you did there, is really, really simple. So I have to admit, in my real life, I work and I've set up a neurodiversity group of about 25 people, half of which are ADHD, and that's the material we're using. And it's changing FMG, the company I work for, and it's, again, simple things. Yeah.
Oh, that's wonderful. That is absolutely fantastic to hear. Yeah, it is fantastic. And it's a big part of what this is our aim. And Darrin, you and I, right, we did a lot of work. Like the second one's hard work. The first one was out, like, just to be fair, the second one is outrageously hard work. The first one is just outrageous plus outrageous plus it was just extraordinary. We had and so it's been wonderful watching our group grow, right? And I think connections directly through you. We now have ADHD Australia involved. We have ADHD Hong Kong called Unlocking ADHD, ADHD Hong Kong, and in more our side of the world, ADHD Europe, and I mean that was our original plan, building up, and that's been great to see.
Yeah. Look, I don't want to take too much credit, Henry. It's your vision and your passion that has driven this conference, and it's going to become bigger and bigger. And I only wish we could be more involved this year, but it's amazing, simply amazing. So nice work.
Yeah, well, we've been building this together. I'm talking about that. So we are. So last year, in terms of pre-registrations, I think we're about 3,000. This year it's over 5,000, and we're at over 90 countries. Last year was about just over 50.
Brilliant. It's just brilliant.
And I think officially over half the global countries. I think it's about 100. Someone will correct me on that. Like, don't do it. Okay, I'm not saying broadly around. What's the plan for next year? Because obviously it's pretty tough right now, so it's hard to look forward. What's your hope?
The plan for next year, first of all, we want to be a fully enabled participant in this conference. And, I think having to watch where your money goes has enabled us to be more focused, and has enabled our community to stand up and say, do you guys need some help? Why didn't you ask? It's not uncommon now that we get random donations of $4,000 or $5,000 a month. So we're becoming a bit more financially stable. Now, of course, when someone contacts you and says, can you please give us your bank account number because we're going to donate $5,000, we generally say, yeah, sure, right. We've seen this before. And there was a situation where it took 6 weeks and involved someone's solicitor to actually contact us to say this donation is real. But we are starting to get the money in, and I'm hoping it will continue to grow. Now, what that is going to empower is probably 3 or 4 different things. The first is continuing the work of getting the guidelines and getting the assessment issues solved. And there's going to be a dramatic change, hopefully announced next year, which will open up other medical professionals and their ability to diagnose and manage ADHD.
What's the situation now? Who can
So
do it?
currently only psychiatrists can diagnose and prescribe medication, and psychologists are able to diagnose, and pediatricians for children. So we're looking to build medical communities which can involve the GPs. And they'll be fully trained, and the idea is those who really need the help can go to the specialists. That's a big breakthrough. So hopefully next year we'll get that agreed. All of the colleges and the Ministry of Health and Te Whara Ora agree in principle. We've just got to work through the detail. The second area we're continuing to work on is education. So this year, one of our highlights, which I should have mentioned, is we've launched training modules for primary and secondary schools. They're on our website, adhd.org.nz. They are free. And I just want to shout out to the Sutherland Trust for funding that. Look, it isn't a New Zealand education regime, but I think there's a lot of tools in that could help. As part of our work, we did a lot of design thinking research in terms of talking what teachers in the classroom actually need, as well as parents and students. So it's very practical.
That's fantastic. That's very important.
Yeah. And, there's another lesson we learned through this year, is we started working with other neurodiverse organizations, and there's the Neurodiversity Education Coalition, which involves dyslexia, learning difficulties New Zealand, as well as Autism New Zealand, and working together powers us. And what I would encourage ADHD not-for-profits to do is look for allies, because at the moment, or go back a couple of years, everyone was knocking on government's door. And when you get together, you can be quite empowering, and the government was more likely to listen. Then the final thing is
just run
really
into some issues here where we've had some comments.
It's,
politician.
Sometimes I wonder why working for neurodiversity community is a competitive sport. That's what it feels like sometimes. And really, we've all got the same aims and ambitions. So I'm not saying that's easy to do, but it's,
but that sounds like a great education resource. And that's definitely also something we're keen on. I'm definitely going to be talking to you and asking about it. I think that thing you're talking about, the GPs, so being able to diagnose, it's a really interesting point. We have huge issues here with where it's an audit, like it's a very interesting question. So at the moment psychiatrists can diagnose and prescribe, psychologists diagnose. You then have specialist prescribers, which can be a specialist nurse, can be a specialist pharmacist. And it is an oddity, actually, the GPs can't, like in our group. It's something for us to seriously think about.
And it turns out, and the peculiarities of the New Zealand health sector is, about 10 years ago, the Ministry of Health set up a trial where GPs and special nurses work together under the supervision of a psychiatrist to diagnose and support those of ADHD. And it turns out that trial's been going for 10 years and has been highly successful. And has been was forgotten about. It was only supposed to go for 2 years, and as it worked, they just continued with it, and effectively the health system forgot about it. So as we move towards it, we do have some experience in it, which I think is amazing.
That is amazing. Also, it's like, amazing to have a forgotten trial. It's like,
it's the health, that's bureaucracy for you.
And I interrupted you, and now I may have ADHD derailed you. So like, you had three things you were talking about.
Look, while the first two things, education and health, I've talked about, we're constantly looking to connect and provide outlets for our community. So in Wellington, for example, we run a Lego/Minecraft group, which is highly successful. And in Auckland, we run basketball, which is we've run it for 7 to 8 years, and it's only just starting to get noticed. And what that is for all neurodiversity children, and it shows you how important sport is. And if you're in a safe environment, how successful everything can be. And what is really interesting for us is people told us we couldn't do it because ADHD children and autism children can have emotional outbursts and they can run away and things like that. So in 7 years, we haven't had a single issue. And so we've confirmed a new sponsor. So we currently have 40 children in our program. We're looking to roll that out nationwide, and that would be huge. For reasons we don't understand, University of Texas sent some researchers over to, they've heard about the program, and they came over to see what actually happened, and which was highly successful. Well, that's helped to get the, I guess, the news about what we've achieved with the program out. Now, the kind of odd thing for us, where each program we run 2 1-hour sessions with 20 kids. And they sent about 30 researchers over. So I was expecting 2. Obviously, they have much bigger budgets in university over there than here. So we're expecting 2 researchers, and they had a busload of researchers turn up. But that's helped get the news out. And underpinning that is we've been involved in a podcast as well, which had a whole section on basketball. So we're hoping to be able to expand. And what it shows, it doesn't have to be basketball. It just has to be activities. And if kids feel safe, they feel like they can belong and they're accepted, then their parents can relax. And then the next thing you know, everyone's successful. The highlight for me, we've actually moved cities, me and my wife. So we used to go and we ran it, is when a parent goes, "Oh, what do I do?" And then we say, "Well, you can just go out for coffee if you like. We're fine." And it's their big moment when they realize that nothing's a problem. Yeah. So we're hoping to roll out more of those.
And what do you think is the reason why it works?
It's acceptance and belonging. So if your ADHD brain says you don't want to line up and you want to go off and shoot some hoops somewhere else, that's fine. That's no big deal. But in effect, the structure and predictability of each course, so we change activities every 5 minutes, and the most amazing coaches you've ever found, means that the kids actually are quite happy to line up and they're quite happy to learn skills. And we've got children who would spend the first month just sitting in a corner refusing to do anything. And there's one particular boy, 2 years later, he's representing a school in basketball just because we took the time. So sport's really important. Activities are really important. If you feel like you're accepted and you feel like you belong, that you're with your tribe, it's just brilliant.
That actually sounds beautiful. Right.
Yeah,
and
it does.
I can see that what jumps out at me is that the likelihood that you talked about, like, that you're in your tribe, like, so you don't need to mask, like the kid doesn't need to mask, not trying to use all this energy trying to like look and conform, and also not having the sword of Damocles that if you do fail to conform, that you're not going to get in a huge amount of trouble. There's going to be big problems for you and for the parents often, which you talked about, parents being able to relax. And so that combination of like not having to use your energy on masking, not having to have that fear of that sword of Damocles coming down, and that discipline being pushed down on something that potentially is not a big deal, and but it's very difficult for you. I can see that being huge.
Yeah, it's been brilliant.
That sounds wonderful. Well, that's great. Right, we're time is always the thing that gets us. Now I didn't, because we were working so closely together, and we obviously did handovers and stuff. I didn't get to really do an interview with you, and I have a favorite question, which you've kind of said that I can succumb you to. Okay. So as part of your ADHD, as a result of your ADHD, what has made you happiest? What has made you saddest? And if we can do
Yeah.
Saddest first, and then happiest, so we end on a high note.
Sad is when you know you don't belong and you can't put your finger on it at the time. It's when you can't keep up, when your mind is drifting, you have this energy that you need to get rid of, and you're sitting there in your suit, because I've worked in the corporate world, and you're just like, I don't belong here. Yeah. It's good that the way post-COVID in New Zealand, there's no more suits and you can be yourself. But that's when I'm at the saddest, and you just know that. When I'm at the happiest is actually when I'm with my iwi or tribe. And actually that was basketball. Because to see the joy in the kids' faces, to be able to coach basketball, to be able to be with the parents and tell them, oh, everything's going to be fine. What's your problem? Nothing is a problem. Your child is amazing. Those are the moments that matter. And as I mentioned, we've moved from Auckland to Wellington, and after 7 years of running basketball, giving up our Sundays to do that, that is the thing we miss the most. But that's our happy space, when you're with your iwi, your tribe, and you can just see the joy and feel accepted.
That's wonderful. You've been wonderful. It's been wonderful catching up. It's been wonderful to sort of get an update on the work you've been doing over the last year, the challenges of it. It's I can absolutely empathise. I can certainly challenge of funding is something else. Which reminds me to say, do donate, everyone who's watching.
Yes.
Go to globaladhd.com and donate. If you want to donate directly to ADHD New Zealand, go Google ADHD New Zealand and donate directly to them. They're particularly keen on checks of between 4,000 and 5,000.
Excellent, love it.
No, I have no doubt anything is hugely valued. That's it. Wonderful to see. Thank you very much for doing this.
Good luck,
year
Henry.
2, may there be many more. See you on the flip side. Thank you.
All right. All the best, everyone. Bye-bye.